It was a day that my entire life was transformed in every aspect of it. It was a Tuesday morning, as most people remember. My husband, Jim, worked on the 103rd floor of the World Trade Center on the North Tower, and he had a very long commute to work. It took him 2 hours to get from our home to Manhattan. So every morning when he left, I would pray for God to keep him safe, and I did indeed pray that morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning when he left. And then it was about 9 o'clock that morning when I called the pharmacy where I work just to check in with them, because I had off that day, but I had worked the night before, and I wanted to see if they had any questions from some things I had left. Anyway, that's when I was told that a plane had just hit Tower 1 just minutes before, and I couldn't believe what I heard, and then I turned on the television, and I couldn't believe what I saw. It was like the end of the world. Well, it was the end of my world.
You had been married 5 years.
5 years,
We have a
yes.
wedding picture.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there it is.
Picture.
We were very blessed with a strong, healthy, loving marriage. I wouldn't trade one day of that. But, you know, the devastating, angry part came because in my heart, I didn't pray to Osama bin Laden every morning to please not attack our country. I prayed to God every morning to please keep Jim safe. So my anger was completely directed at God. I took it very personally.
Now you pray to God.
I prayed to God, but he was just a vague, impersonal force to me back then. You know, my knowledge of him was very superficial, very, very short-sighted. To me, he you know, it was a generic type thing, or the Santa Claus thing. You know, you pray for it and you get what you want, or, you know, and I really only prayed to him when I wanted something or needed something. Otherwise, I kept him on the sidelines. And but I had no knowledge of Jesus, no understanding of Jesus. I had never read the Bible, never owned a Bible, never had any interest in any of that, and never understood my need for Jesus because I didn't really think that I was a sinner. You know, I knew I wasn't perfect, but I was looking at my sins through the eyes of the world instead of through the eyes of God, and I didn't think I needed Jesus, and I didn't want Jesus. So I just assumed that since I believe there is a God, and since I'm a relatively good person, that God would never let anything bad happen to me in this life or the next.
So how did you move from anger and despair to, well, I'm going to quote you, "The most valuable riches are found in an empty tomb and on the pages of the Bible." You were biblically illiterate.
Completely
at 9/11.
biblical illiterate. Spiritually ignorant, completely biblically illiterate, and wanted no part of it. But the Lord, in that first year after 9/11, He really just brought a lot of different people into my life, not just my family, but even just complete strangers that came into my life. Some of them came just for a brief, fleeting moment, and I never saw them again, and others came into my life and have remained there. And they helped me to understand the role that suffering plays, and of course, many of them explained to me who Jesus really is and what He's done for us, and some of them introduced me to the Bible, and you know, it's just like it says in 1 Corinthians, it was a collective effort. Some people planted seeds, others watered them, but God was causing the growth. God was causing the increase.
Have you had connection with other 9/11 widows who maybe haven't found the strength to go on that you have found?
Some of them have moved forward. They are rebuilding their lives. They're getting involved in many different activities and programs. And yes, some of them have come to know the Lord, and for that I am grateful to see that. But unfortunately, Moira, I have to say there are some families who are still in a very dark place. They're still where they were 8 years ago, and they're harboring bitterness and anger and resentment, and they're angry. They're angry at the airlines, the government, the terrorists, and they're angry at God just like I was. And it's heartbreaking for me to see that, because I see in them where I could have been had I not made the very wise decision to invite Christ into my life.
God has never failed me. That's your statement.
Yes.
You must have women and men who wonder, first of all, if you're in your right mind, and secondly, how can you say that?
Well, I can tell you 8 years ago I never would have believed it either. And 8 years ago I never would have believed anything good could ever come out of 9/11. I never would have believed I'd be functional again, or that I'd even smile again. So I can understand why people would not understand that statement. But yes, God is faithful, and He has never failed me. It may appear as if God fails us. You know, it might appear as if God took the day off while commercial jets are being used as bombs to kill thousands of innocent people, or when hurricanes or tornadoes or earthquakes level entire cities. It might appear as if he doesn't care when we're diagnosed with cancer, or when we lose our job, or our entire life savings in the stock market crash. But the truth is, God is faithful, and even in the worst possible circumstances, things are not always as they appear, because God is working behind the scenes. He sees the big picture. We can't. We have to trust, knowing Him, that He can bring beauty from ashes and blessings from brokenness. He can bring a tragedy, take a tragedy and turn it into a victory. He did it with His Son on the cross, and He can do it with every one of us. When we allow Him to work in our lives, He's able to do exceedingly abundantly more than we could ever ask or think or imagine.
You established a memorial. You talked about your dream. You and your husband wanted to go to Grand Cayman Islands and teach scuba diving. Tell us about the memorial to Jim.
You know, none of Jim's remains were ever found, so I wanted to do something very special for him. And we had some friends down that live in Grand Cayman, and what they did was they got together and they had a beautiful bronze memorial plaque placed underwater on a beautiful coral reef in Jim's memory. This is in Grand Cayman. And the Cayman government named the dive site after Jim. They named it Jim Sands Memorial Reef, and it's really the most special, incredible tribute to him. But bad news is, a few years ago, Grand Cayman took a direct hit from Hurricane Ivan. It was a Category 5 hurricane, yes, and it hit on, of all days, September 11th, 2004. And the damage was catastrophic. Jim's memorial has not been seen since. So it boggles my mind. You know, on 9/11/2001, I lost Jim, and 3 years later to the day, I lost his memorial. Why was it destroyed? I don't know, Moira. I don't know. I may never know the answer to that question, but, you know, on the basis of what I do know about God, I can trust Him with the things that I don't know.
You talk about 1 Peter chapter 1. This is your journey. In this you greatly rejoice. Is this a joy-filled woman? Look at her. In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may be proved genuine and may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed.
Yeah.
You say your mission now is yada, 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 not yada, yada, yada.
It's not the Seinfeld yada, yada, yada. It's yada, yada, yada. Yada is Hebrew for knowledge. And da'at Elohim is the knowledge of the Lord. It's getting to know the Lord. How do we do that? Through daily prayer, through daily Bible reading, through Christian fellowship. Because we speak to God through our prayers, and He speaks to us through His Word, and that's how you get that dialogue going, and that's how you discover how truly, completely, entirely trustworthy and reliable God really is, and what a faithful God and best friend and companion He is to us.